Time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Joining us, the Times football reporter Charlotte Dunker and the Mirror's chief football writer John Cross. Welcome to you both. Let's quickly run through the back pages as they reach us after all the late night sport. This is the Telegraph. England vow to pull off another epic run heist. Headingley doubles delight. Raducanu's inspired by her new partner Carlos Alcaraz, two 22-year-olds. Guardian back page or front page of the sports supplement has this: we can chase anything. Tongue confident of victory after his late blitz keeps England alive. And Jonathan Liu, interesting think piece, asks why can't Delap and Jackson thrive together at Chelsea. The Times back page has this: let's make history again. The cricket at Headingley. England need 350 more runs. Still got 10 wickets in hand. Raducanu glad Stalker foiled in his attempt to buy tickets at Wimbledon. More on that to come. OK, let's start with the front of the Telegraph. Then that cricket story. Josh Tongue celebrating with Bryan and Cast there joyously after 3 wickets in 4 balls. Turned the match for England, really. Tongue says target of 371 holds no fear for Bazballer. Charlotte, they said Test cricket is dead, but this has brought it to life more than a little bit, hasn't it?
Oh, it's set up for a fascinating final day, isn't it? I mean, England batting in the last half an hour of the day means they need, 350 to win. So I think there was times in the day where it looked like India could really run away with it and it would have made England's job even harder tomorrow. But we know what this England team's like. They're definitely not going to go out and settle for a draw. So, yeah, there should be some really fascinating and exciting cricket for everyone to watch tomorrow.
It is going to be nail-biting. We do hope the weather stays away. John, back page of The Guardian then. We can chase anything. Tongue confident of victory after his late blitz keeps England alive. And there's been a real cultural shift, I suppose, in cricket, and particularly with England, John, where you just get the sense they are going to go for it. The draw is almost being treated with disdain when you read the comments.
Absolutely. I love it, though, don't you, Teddy? I mean, I just think it's really good, rabble-rousing stuff from Josh Tongue, sort of kind of, and no wonder, I think 3 wickets from 4 balls, and I think it was an incredibly exciting day of action. Sorry to not actually be able to watch much of it at all, really, just kind of caught up with it sort of on the end, because what a fascinating sort of unfolding of it. I think it was the Telegraph on the front page of their pullout that basically, I think the sort of kind of the subdeck refers to the kind of the Bazballers. And that's what it's about, isn't it, really? It's kind of, you mentioned that shift in kind of attitude and sort of kind of approach to it. And I think that's fantastic from an England point of view to see them really going on the front foot, chasing it down. We're not interested in the draw, playing safe. And yes, they've kind of got maybe, I think what's being referred to as a tricky pitch in those comments tomorrow, and potentially the weather as well. But they're going for it. There's no sense of kind of playing safe or being sort of kind of, really sort of trying to defend and sort of kind of go for the draw. They're absolutely going for it. It's a different style of cricket. It's a different approach, an attacking style of cricket. And I think that's what's made it so exciting and so fascinating to watch in the last few days. It really has set it up, though, as well, because of that run chase. You're looking at sort of kind of breaking records and you're going very close to things that have never been done before. So only the 350 to get on the final day. Who says it can't be done? Brilliant.
I do appreciate we're speaking to 2 football reporters as well, Charlotte, but the fact is it's on the back pages of the papers. And is that indicative of this desire for England to entertain? And how important is that in sport now, in this multimedia world, to get on the back pages, to get the attention online and on our television screens?
Well, the reason why it's on the back pages is because England could create history tomorrow if they win. So it's on there for a good reason. Like you say, mine and John's expertise is more in the football side, but this is sport, and it's fascinating to see. Especially, there were times today when it looked like England were going to be down and out, and then after the way that they batted at the end of the day, it's given them that little bit of hope, and it's that hope that keeps people watching these games, doesn't it? I mean, like I said, it looked like they could have been chasing a bigger ththing. It could have been India's last 6 wickets fell for 31, which obviously really helps England. So some amazing batting by Pant and Rahul for India. But England tomorrow, I don't know. Like you say, it's the weather, this unpredictable English weather. Can it hold out? Can England do what they've done? I mean, look back to the Ashes in 2019, wasn't it? Look what Stokes did there. So can we have a repeat of that? I'm sure people will be glued to the TV sets to see if they can.
Absolutely. Let's keep our fingers crossed. It's amazing that a sport was invented in this country that you can't play when it rains, given how much it does rain. But that's where we are, and that adds to the drama, I suppose, tomorrow. Let's talk football. The cricket actually leads on the back page of the Star, Charlotte. I'll stay with you for this because I know you're across this story with Manchester United. Ollie Gamp reporting United in £60 million bribe bid. Bryan and Mbeumo. Charlotte, what can you tell us? How close do you think Manchester United are to landing the Brentford man?
Yeah, I think it's getting a lot closer. We obviously know that their first bid, which was around 45 million plus 5 in add-ons, was rejected. Brentford were looking at just over 60 million, I think, for their forward. So I think we're getting a lot closer to that target price that Brentford are after. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is one that Manchester United do manage to get over the line. We obviously knew that after they managed to get Cunha, Liam Delap was obviously their number one target in the forward positions. They lost out on him to Chelsea. After they managed to get Cunha through the line, and Mbeumo was the one that they've been looking to secure. So the idea is to get as much as Ruben Amorim's squad in place before they return to pre-season training, which I think is on the 7th of July. So it'd be good if they could get this deal over the line quickly, get him integrated into the group as soon as they return. And he could be a really interesting signing for them. This is a guy who scored 20 Premier League goals last season. If you look at Manchester United's top 2 goal scorers in the league last season, it was Ahmad and Bruno Fernandes, who got 8 each. So they really are desperate for goals up that end of the pitch. I still do think they need a specialist number 9 to contribute with those goals, to bring competition to Rasmus Højlund, because he didn't have a very good campaign last season. But he's definitely another one to add some attacking flair and different dynamic to that Manchester United forward line. If they can get it over the line, which we've obviously not heard from the Brentford side yet, whether they're going to accept this bid, but we do know that Manchester United have submitted a second bid, which is believed to be in excess of 60 million.
It's going to be interesting to see what Brentford's response isn't it? Martin Blackburn in The Sun carries the story as well. Red hot, reference the hot part to Chelsea's struggles in Philadelphia, which John can talk about a little bit later. But the red bid is Man United's second bid of £60 million for Mbeumo. Martin Blackburn does point out here, John, that he was also wanted by his old boss, Thomas Frank, at Tottenham Hotspur. We're having a chat pre-show, though, and you were just saying that maybe Spurs have only served to ratchet up the price a little bit. What's your take on the way this is playing out?
Yeah, it does feel a bit like that, Teddy, really. It feels as if if you've only got one club that's really serious on a player, then I do think you're lacking a kind of the market value and the market price pushing up on a player who I think is absolutely outstanding. I do think he's fantastic. He's so exciting to watch, particularly when he's sort of kind of out on the right, cutting in on, sort of on the left-hand side. And I just think he's absolutely a terrific player with pace, with real strength and great decision-making, fantastic output, as Charlotte mentioned, in terms of goals and assists. And I genuinely think that this guy can really light up the Premier League. And I do feel as if along the way there, he's probably made it clear that his preferred destination is Manchester United and Old Trafford, which is all well and good, but not very helpful to Brentford, frankly, because if they're trying to sort of kind of get a price and the player's made his mind up, it's not particularly helpful. I do get the impression that Brentford were braced for this. Brentford are such a well-run football club, and they kind of always get their ducks in a row before things happen, and so they kind of line things up. They're determined to keep Visser. I kind of think they were braced for Frank going. But I do wonder whether almost Spurs have been a bit of a Trojan horse, in sort of kind of making things happen by sort of kind of, I'm sure Thomas Frank would have been interested in his former player, knows what he can do, and therefore it's kind of worked in their favour that Spurs, undoubtedly, there's been an interest there. They've made a bid, haven't they? So, but I do think that maybe it's done everyone a favour, really, particularly for Brentford, because if they kind of got the inkling that the player really fancies Man United, then I'm afraid to say there's not much of a market going on. Spurs created one, and the price has then duly gone up. And I do think even if United can get him just over 60 million quid, I think that's a good bit of business. I really do. I think it speaks to United's pulling power, the history of the club, and the sort of the glamour and the dream of the club, which has clearly been sold to Mbeumo. If they can do that and Cunha already done, then I actually think that United are on course for a pretty exceptional window.
Interesting, it says Martin Blackburn report, Charlotte, that Newcastle also interested, but Brentford now weighing up this offer from Manchester United. Talking of United's transfer policy more broadly, follows on the heels potentially of the signing already done of Cunha, Charlotte. Is there a change attack here? Amorim's not bringing in players from Portugal the way that Ten Hag brought in players from Dutch football.
Yeah, I don't think it's just Amorim's changing tact. I think if you obviously look at the change in the football recruitment department, Jason Wilcox has become football director and he's working closely with Christopher Vivell and he's working closely with Omar Barada as well. So I think between the three of them, this is their first big transfer window, that they feel they need to get it right. And like you said, that they're turning to Premier League proven talent, of which Cunha obviously is and Mbeumo is. Delap was, obviously he's gone to Chelsea, and other players that they're looking at as well have got Premier League proven experience. My colleague did a piece at the weekend saying Jonathan Norcroft, 1.7 billion of Manchester United have spent on transfers since 2013. They've only brought in 10 established players from Premier League clubs. If you compare that to other clubs at the top 5, at the top of the Premier League, say in the top 6, for example, they've favoured a lot more going for this Premier League experience, and these teams have gone on and won titles. So it's about getting that fine balance, isn't it? Finding those hidden gems from abroad, bringing them in, bringing that flair, bringing that excitement to the league. But also you need those players who know exactly what it takes in the pressure cooker of the Premier League. Rasmus Højlund, for example, is one of those players who looks at the minute like he just can't cut it in this league, whereas we know that Mbeumo can score 20 goals a season. So I think they're looking at that as a model at the minute, and they're thinking if we can get these players in who don't take 1, 2, 3 seasons to bed in and can hit the ground running, this Manchester United team needs to hit the ground running straight away next season, because they're already under so much pressure given the disaster that was the last campaign. So yeah, it is a change in tact in terms of the transfer strategy. It's not necessarily a remarkable one. Plenty of other Premier League teams have been doing this for years. Manchester United used to do it. Look at the players that they brought in the past: Wayne Rooney, Edwin van der Sar. They've been successful in their pursuits in the past of poaching from other Premier League teams, but it's just not something we've seen in the recent past. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it pays off for them. But both of those signings, if Mbeumo obviously gets over the line, should be good signings for them.
Yeah, both players proven in the Premier League. Charlotte, they're talking about Rasmus Højlund. John, I just want to come back to you quickly on how he might fit in Mbeumo at Manchester United. You said he's at his best cutting in off the right-hand side, but Amad Diallo's also good at that. Is there any temptation to try and mould him into a 9, or have we been down that road before with Rashford at Manchester United?
Yeah, I think that would be a shame, if I'm honest. Yes, I could see him doing it because I think he's an outstanding player. I mean, I must say, I think I sort of kind of told this anecdote previously, but basically sort of a former Premier League manager was saying to me, a few weeks back, saying that, wow, why isn't half the rest of the Premier League after this guy? Because honestly, he kind of likened him to kind of style and kind of ability and level as as Salah. Basically, when Salah joined Liverpool, yes, he had some improving work to do, but he was a player with pace, dynamism, and I think that. Would you ever have put Salah in the middle? No, you wouldn't. And I just think you're compromising on the talent there. And basically, I think it would be a shame if United do that. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, and they've kind of got a greater sort of kind of scouting and sort of tactical knowledge than me, and sort of kind of got a plan for him. But my idea would be, I think United would be fabulous if they basically had Cunha on one side and Mbeumo on the other, and you'd give them a real thrust. And then it's up to other players to kind of really sort of kind of compete, and sort of that's what you want, a competitive culture about it. And I think that Mbeumo, I do like this player. You probably gathered that by now. And I just think that would be a hell of a coup for United. I do think they also need a 9. I mean, Højlund, it has been such a disappointment, bearing in mind that the price that they've paid. There's lots of talk about Nkunku, isn't there, basically at Chelsea. I wonder whether that can kind of, sort of be something that they could explore. But I feel as if he's not your classic 9 either. And I do think I think to make United work in that system, and particularly the way that Amorim likes to play, I do think I'm sure that they'll have to have another look and see what they can do in terms of a 9. I do think it's worth also mentioning that kind of going back to Spurs, I do think Spurs have clearly had an interest in the player because they're looking at wide options. And I think Eberechi Eze, I think, is in a few papers, and understandably so. It's something that we did sort of kind of yesterday, just to sort of say Spurs looking at their wide options, and Mbeumo has clearly perhaps sort of in United's sights right now. But Eze, if someone can do that for £68 million, which has been widely reported as a sort of a buyout clause, then I also think that's great value. I'm sure Palace will be determined to keep him, but I do think it's quite an interesting one, sort of a bit of a merry-go-round on really talented players in the Premier League, and could be a really interesting window in the next few weeks.
Let's hope so. Really fascinating, that, isn't it? Lots of wide forwards, lots of tens. Where have all the nines gone? It's probably a debate for another programme, maybe a special we'll do at one time. We'll take a quick break there, John and Charlotte. When we come back, we'll look at more of the sports stories in the morning's papers, including this in the Daily Mail. Emma Hale's Wimbledon's amazing job over Stalker, and the cricket covered again. Welcome back. You're watching Back Pages tonight, and it's welcome back to the Times football reporter Charlotte Dunker and the Mirror's chief football writer John Cross. Come to you, John, because it's about where you are in Philadelphia, really. The Summer Sun Sizzlers, back page of the Sun. Andrew Dillon here. The hot Maresca heat makes full training impossible. John, what can you tell us, and how warm is it? 40 C, 100 Fahrenheit?
It's absolutely scorching, Teddy. Wouldn't you just know? You send an Englishman to the United States and he ends up talking, writing and asking about the weather. Who would have thought it? But frankly, yeah, earlier in the day, it was about 38 degrees. They are actually issuing weather warnings, extreme heat warnings here, would you believe? They're reporting locally that we are talking about in Philadelphia, it's the hottest temperatures over the next couple of days for 17 years. And actually, a real heat wave here. Enzo Maresca was talking about kind of not being able to train properly. They've got this sort of training ground. It's actually at Philadelphia Union, sort of the MLS club, about 15 minutes away from the main stadium, which they'll be playing at tomorrow. And frankly, just not being able to train there. Now, listen, you might think it's 9 o'clock kickoff tomorrow, but actually the reality is that they're estimating it will still be 30 degrees plus at kickoff time. So it really is a massive consideration for the clubs. And it is, a strange one. I was at the Man City game last night in Atlanta, and frankly, at times you wouldn't know because the roof was closed and it was really hot there. But it's an air-conditioned stadium, both inside the press box and actually inside the ground. You're just not feeling it. But there's no protection in Philadelphia, nothing like that. And it is one of the major factors of this competition, actually, really, and particularly what the European teams are having to cope with.
Yeah, Chelsea playing El Tunis at Lincoln Field. I suppose, Charlotte, Philadelphia Eagles, the NFL team, play in the winter when it's usually snowing. But there's another concern here, isn't there, for England, something to bear in mind, because Maresca's saying in these quotes in The Sun, it's almost impossible to train because of the weather. We're just trying to save energy for the game. Assuming England get their food for thought for Thomas Tuchel, Charlotte, and how he approaches it, maybe tactically.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think for all the players that are going to go to the World Cup next summer, it's an indication of what's lying in store for them. And we've already seen, haven't we, in the last England camp, that how they were making them train in those heat tents on the bikes, and they were saying how difficult it was sweltering on the bikes for like 45 minutes in over 30-degree heat. And that's, if England have got a chance of obviously getting far in the tournament, those sorts of preparations are going to be as important for them as the tactics on the pitch and the training that they do day to day with the clubs, because Maresca's talking there about them not using tiredness as an excuse. They're obviously at the end of a really long season, but the energy is going to be sapped out of them with the heat as well. So England and all the teams that are going to the World Cup next summer, they're going to have to train and adapt to the fact that they are going to have to play in these stifling heats that's going to take everything out of them. So in some ways, it's good training for those players that are at the Club World Cup who want to go back to the World Cup next summer to see how they can cope with that, see how they can adapt, see how they can get through it. And fingers crossed for them that they end up getting picked to play in a stadium with air conditioning and not one like John's going to have to go to tomorrow afternoon.
I feel like after 5 minutes of watching, we're going to know, aren't we? The pace of the game is going to be very different, whether it's air-conditioned or not. Let's come to you, John, with the reflections on the Club World Cup, because Martin Samuel, writing in The Times, says the Club's World Cup is great. In 20 years, we'll be desperate to host it. John, tell us what Martin's had to say and your opinion being out there as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting piece from Martin, because he was basically saying, yes, it is fun to watch. We have watched it. We're almost afraid to admit it. Listen, within that piece, in the second half of the piece, he's actually much more critical and sort of realistic about it. It has got faults. But I do, listen, I'm an avid Times reader, actually, and basically I really enjoy Martin's columns. But basically, and fair play to him, because a couple of weeks ago, he was actually quite critical of the kind of the FIFA hierarchy and the sort of the politics of it all. But you look, within this, he's saying it has been better than I thought it would be. And basically, just because we think that basically in Europe, we should be arrogantly winning it all. And basically, we're not used to kind of the Brazilians coming in and kind of really sort of making it their own. My own impressions, I have to say, I've enjoyed it more than I thought I would. And basically, I do think it's got major faults. And obviously, the biggest single one is too much on the players. It's the workload is there, and basically it's too many games. The calendar issue is a massive one. But I do think you've seen decent viewing figures. You've seen, yes, there was one appalling sort of attendance in the stadium when Chelsea kind of played their first game in Atlanta. But since then, we've had 40,000s, we've had 80,000s. It's been a decent sort of attendance watch. They have to absolutely overcome a couple of things, which is the scheduling of it, the heat and conditions of it, and this ridiculous notion that we're watching the 32 best teams in the world. We're absolutely not. Some of these teams shouldn't be there. And when you see that sort of Bayern Munich putting 10 past an opponent, I'm sorry, scale it back, reschedule it, putting it in the calendar, make it work. And I do think it's got a future within the game. I know that'll sort of kind of upset and surprise a few people as like the traditionalists. But I'm sorry, we kind of want to see the best teams. We want to see the best players in the world on the biggest stage. And yeah, dare I say it, I've quite enjoyed it. It's got major faults to kind of rectify, but it's the first one of its type. So maybe there's life in this.
We shall see, John. Well said. Very interesting to see, isn't it? Atletico Madrid going out as well. South American teams have been great. Let's talk quickly tennis. We've got about a minute or so, Charlotte. Emma Raducanu in the Mail hails Wimbledon's amazing job over Stalker. Apparently the Stalker, of course, has been denied his application for tickets. Raducanu says, I'm not the first athlete to go through this. I probably won't be the last, not just as an athlete, but females in general. How important, Charlotte, has this been in shining a light on what a lot of these female athletes seem to be going through, from what we've heard?
Yeah, it's been absolutely massive. I think we were talking about it on this show last week in terms of, like she said, praising what they've done at Wimbledon in terms of looking through that ticket system, seeing that guy's name popping up and banning him, because it now allows her to go to that tournament with ease, with confidence, to know that this man isn't going to be around her. It's a sad state of affairs that we even have to talk about this on this show, and that it's even got this far, that he followed her to 4 successive tournaments. And we saw those images of her in tears, didn't we, at that tournament last year. So it's sad, but it's good that it's shone a light on it, and hopefully it'll make some people question their behaviour. And we were talking about it online as well, because that was an issue last week as well, with people getting death threats because they weren't winning matches and that sort of thing. So there's a bigger, wider issue, in not just in sport but in society, about the way people feel threatened and that sort of thing. So it's good to shine a light on it, and I think the work that Wimbledon have done to ensure that this man, this Stalker, isn't going to be there is exceptional. And obviously it allows her to go and enjoy the tournament and play the tennis that she wants to play without focusing on these off the court matters.
Absolutely. Wish her the best of luck there. Charlotte, John, thank you very much for your time on Back Pages tonight. See you again soon. Wonderful stuff. If you missed a show, it's available as a podcast. Download Back Pages, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get it. Also available at hour again. Join us again on Tuesday night. Our guests will be Martin Hardy and Rieth Al Samurai.